What's up, what's up, what's up? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another live stream. How's everybody feeling today? How does my sound? How does my sound sound? How does my volume sound? We got a little bit of pump in the market today, which is obviously nothing to get out of bed for. A little bit green. Yeah, Bardazon, I see your comment there, the HTX listing. We'll talk about that a little bit. Before we get started, make sure you guys pay your bar tabs. I know we're not in the bar again, Christmas season. We're going to hang out in the living room with the Christmas tree and the snow in the background. Nice snowy mountain. Easy to look at. But make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe, because at 10,000 subscribers, we're giving away 10,000 KASPA to one lucky individual. Hopefully, by that time, KASPA's price is a lot higher. Either way, it doesn't matter. You hold on to it, the price will get higher anyway, at some point. So, it's free. I don't ask anybody for money. And you have a chance to win some KASPA. Seems like a no-brainer to me. So there's a lot going on with KASPA in general. I know the overall market structure is not good, but like, I don't follow closely, like too closely, to a lot of other projects, but I imagine that none of them out there have the amount of catalysts and doing the things that KASPA is doing behind the scenes right now. Yeah, and I do see you, Crypto BTC Cass. Bro, be careful of the clickbait. There isn't any adoption as much as I want there to be. Hey, first of all, two things here. Have you ever seen a YouTube title or a YouTube thumbnail that isn't somewhat clickbaity? Let's be honest. Okay? That's just the nature of the YouTube game. Secondly, you haven't heard what I'm about to say yet. You're just assuming that what I have to say means absolutely nothing, and there's no adoption at all. So, I appreciate your comment. But we're going to talk about some things that are actually very big going on underground right now that you're not seeing come to the surface yet, but eventually will. Like actively going on, not just, oh, well, it might happen, like actively going on. But yeah, it's okay. I can take the criticism. I got very thick skin. Not that that was that bad a criticism compared to some people in my comment sections. Okay. I want to answer this one question too before we actually get into it. And that is Dad Journey. Who appreciate you coming back and hanging out. I'm in the middle of buying a business and I'm interested in accepting CAS as payment. I like Wolfie's setup. Do you recommend, or how do you recommend reaching someone with more info to help get started? So, there's actually a link on KASPA.org, which is KASPA, I believe that's KASPA's official website. And I'll pull it up on screen real quick, and this hopefully might help somebody else out too who's potentially in the same situation, whether it be online or point of sale, like an actual physical system inside of a retail store or whatever it might be, where they can tap their phone or wallet or whatever it might be. Let me get this pulled up real quick. So this is KASPA's actual website, KASPA.org, and there's a directory in there. And KASPA.info is a crypto payment solution, and this is where I might start if I was you. The description in here is I specialize in helping businesses set up crypto payments and gateways, from online stores to POS systems. With hands-on experience in e-commerce, I provide expert guidance on integrating crypto payments seamlessly, training staff, enhancing customer flexibility, blah, 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 blah. But if you go to KASPA.org and find the directory and then find KASPA, it looks like there's a phone number you can call, as well as a website, as well as that looks like that's it. There is an X page as well. So maybe first things reaching out to them. I don't know what they charge, but it sounds like these people or this person will help you like legitimately set the whole thing up, so you don't have to like try and do it yourself if you didn't have any sort of expertise in that area. And so that might be an easy way, whether it be, via video chat or on the phone. They can get you set up, get you a system in place and sent out to you. So I just wanted to address that first before we started, because it's a good question. And you know what's funny is I actually have an online merch store. Some of you guys may not know that, because I never, ever, ever even talk about it, which kind of weird. I probably should. But I've tried multiple scenarios to get KASPA integrated so that people can pay with crypto in general, and especially KASPA on my website. And for some reason, every single time I try and do it, it for some reason doesn't work as far as KASPA goes. I can get Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff, but I don't really want to put crypto payments into my website until I can get KASPA integrated, because, that's literally my whole channel and whole setup here is KASPA. So if I had a website and I didn't accept KASPA, but I accepted Bitcoin and Ethereum, it would look a little weird, don't you think? But the link for the website actually is in the description. There's some interesting designs, t-shirts, hoodies, pillows, drinkware, some stickers, and some other stuff. If you guys wanted to check it out and needed some new KASPA gear to show off in your neighborhoods, you can go check that out. Moving on, though. The main thing I want to talk about here is the adoption scenario. And as what's his name here, Crypto BTC Cast said, there is no adoption. On the surface, it doesn't look like there's much adoption, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And shout out to Quick Crypto. Try and say that 50 times fast. He has done a couple videos lately where he's going in depth on the DII, Desert something initiative. What am I missing there? Why can't I think of it? Anyways, and then the KII is a branch off of that, same people, but their initiative is to use KASPA as the underlying infrastructure for their, businesses and their moving money back and forth, and energy back and forth potentially, in between, energy companies. And the DII and the KII, they deal with the 30 biggest energy companies in the world. That's not a small scenario there. Yeah, it's Desert Energy, but what does the middle I stand for? I know it's some Desert something initiative. But I know it's Desert Energy. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, I guess. As you guys know, the KII was kind of born out of the DII, who have been in the energy sector, and they're massive pillars in the energy sector for industrial. That's it. Thank you, Bardazan and Crypto Rob. Thank you. Industrial Initiative. They're huge pillars in the energy industry, and they have they work with the 30 biggest energy companies in the world. And behind the scenes right now, the KII is dealing and setting up this infrastructure of KASPA behind the scenes. They're going to end up building their own layer 2 on top of KASPA. They're already working on the gigawatt stablecoin, which is the stablecoin that they're going to transact with all of these energy companies and their banks that are involved on a daily basis. That's going to be their dedicated stablecoin, and it's going to settle on the KASPA base layer. And so I don't know exactly how many transactions they do a day in this group of energy companies and banks, but I imagine it's quite a bit. And the more transactions they're doing, the more the miners get paid, the more transactions, the transaction fees go to the miners, I should say. And one of the big things that I wanted to point out, again, shout out to Quit Crypto. If we pull this up, these are the companies right now that the DII is involved with, but also the KII, KASPA Industrial Initiative, is going to be setting up payment rails for using the KASPA ecosystem, right? They're in the works of it right now. It's a foregone thing that this is going to happen. It just takes time to set up. Okay, that's why I say there's a lot of things, big things, brewing underneath of the surface right now that we're not seeing yet. But at a certain point in time, they're going to be live. This stuff is still going to be in the background. We're not going to see any of these type of energy payments going back and forth, but we are going to see the network transactions per second, or daily transactions, I would imagine, probably skyrocket at the time where they start implementing the payment rails using KASPA. This group right here, State Grid. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse right here. I can't highlight it because it's a photo. But State Grid, SGCC, is their largest company that they deal with, right? A $500 billion company, and they've been in business for 22 years. Now, what I want to come over here and do is look at, these are the top companies in the Fortune 500. And I'm going to blow this up because it looks a little small, I imagine, for you guys, especially if you're on the phone, on a cell phone. Let me see if I can blow this up. Okay. If you look at, right now we are, let's go to 2025, okay? State Grid is the third largest Fortune 500 company globally. Remember, this is part of the energy group that is going to be using the KASPA payment rail inside of the KII once they're up and running. Okay? Third largest Fortune 500 company in the world. That's huge. They do a lot of transactions, and they're a very profitable company. They've been around for 22 years. They're big, 500 billion market cap. Okay. Now we can go back 2024. Still the third largest, as you can see there, number 3. If we go back even further, 2023, still third biggest. 2022, still number 3. 2021, they move up to the second biggest. (2020) back to the third. Anyways, beyond the point, whether you're the third largest or the second largest Fortune 500 company globally, I don't know that matters. Nonetheless, they're in the top 5 for multiple years in a row. Okay, those are the type of companies that the KII and the DII have been working with. Well, the DII has been working with the KII, KASPA Initial Industrial, Initial Industrial. It's a tongue twister. I can't say it. KASPA Industrial Initiative is going to bring these companies in, right? They started this offset company off of the DII just to use KASPA. And those are the type of companies that are going to be on this list in this group of energy companies that's going to be using KASPA and paying with KASPA behind the scenes. They're not even going to know that they're even using KASPA. That's the best part about it. The KII is going to set up a system where you're using a stable coin. You're not even going to know you're using KASPA, but it's going to be settled on KASPA. And these companies are going to be using it in their group of energy companies. And so when you see that one of these companies is the third largest Fortune 500 company globally, that's institutional type, money and transaction volume that's potentially going to be done using the KASPA base chain through stablecoin payments. Okay? That is why the adoption part of it, maybe retail hasn't really adopted KASPA yet, right? KASPA has a great community. The community is growing on a daily basis, but I would argue that retail in general has not really adopted it. You could argue that institutions have not adopted it either. But if I would have told you, let's say you found KASPA in 2021 or 2022, because it launched end of 2021. You found it in 2022, and somebody told, and it was a fraction of a cent. Somebody told you that the 30 biggest energy companies in the world, including State Grid, top 3 Fortune 500 company globally, is going to start using KASPA in 4 years' time. Would you have believed them, for one, and how much more KASPA would you have bought at that time, if you would have known that. So that is why I'm saying that the adoption just in stablecoin payments from 30 energy companies might be enough adoption to keep the miners happy on its own and eliminate any fear of the miners, I guess, becoming unprofitable for long periods of time, which in turn they would turn off, which in turn the security would go down. Security budget issue, which we do have to worry about. Bitcoin has to worry about it as well, okay? That is the type of adoption alone that could keep KASPA afloat. And then you tie in all the speculative stuff that may come in time, right? We can't predict the future necessarily, but I would imagine at some point you're going to start seeing more Bitcoiners turn to KASPA. I imagine at some point more retail is going to continue to find out about KASPA. Anybody who comes into the space with that cypherpunk attitude, which is what crypto was supposed to be in the first place, the only project out there that could suffice them, I would argue, is KASPA. It just takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of marketing from, I guess you could call it marketing from us, KASPA influencers. And then Yonatan, as we talked about, I think last week, they're doing it's not a marketing program, it's a media program, where they're going to relay information to the general public in terms that are easy to digest for the average person, which will get the word out even further to the retail and potentially institutions as well on that note. So I know that KASPA is not massively adopted yet, okay? But the fact that a top 3 global Fortune 500 company mixed in with the KII is 100% for sure going to be settling payments on the KASPA blockchain, I would argue that that is massive adoption. And it's right around the corner. Let me know if you disagree. But I don't know that I can think of anything more bullish than that. As a starting point, obviously you can build on stuff like that, but as a starting point, I would argue that that is one of the most bullish things you can possibly have, are those big companies using KASPA as their payment settlement layer. So even though you can't see it in real time yet, we know for a fact, because they have told us outright, that it is on its way, and it should be here early next year. They're launching on Egra Labs, I believe. So when Egra Labs launches, I imagine we start seeing the KII slowly start ramping up, right? They're probably going to test some stuff. I would imagine they're doing testing right now as well. But that's when I think we're going to start to really hit the ground running as far as transactions on a daily basis go. Come on, universe. I'm so tired of that narrative. It's a Jew coin. There's no adoption. Come on, man. The devs can be from... why can't I think of the country's name? Anyways, it doesn't matter. But all of the work is done in the United States. Like, that's where their servers are. They're in LA. Most of them. That's just like a shallow, low IQ answer to everything, in my opinion. There might be some people out there that think like that, but the vast majority of people, they don't even know where the devs are from. And Jonathan doesn't even live there anymore. I believe he lives in somewhere on the east coast of the United States. Also, I want to give kind of an overview of what I think about the overall market too, real quick, and then we'll get into some comments and some questions and spend the rest of the night in the chat. So, obviously we're in a downtrend right now, overall. And I think I'm okay calling this a bear market. And the reasoning for that is because we don't have the macro setup that we need for, a true risk-off bull market yet. And there's going to be some people, so I think this bear market is not going to be as bad, and it might not last as long. I think there's a chance we still actually see downtrends until October, right? Unless we miraculously put in an all-new high by Bitcoin, you'd have about a week or two to do it before the end of this year, unless it rides into January. But I think what's going to happen is, the middle of next year, rates are going to start being cut more because Jerome Powell's out of office. The new Fed chair is going to come in, and quantitative easing, right, is technically already started, but they might announce it. We're going to get stimulus payments of potentially $2,000 a piece for American citizens. And I just think that is going to be the start of what's going to lead us into what I would probably when we look back on it, I think we're going to end up calling it just the next cycle. There's going to be a lot of people that, especially if the next cycle doesn't go into 2029 and we blow off top before that, there's going to be a lot of people just calling it a extended cycle or a super cycle or whatever it might be. But I think when we do finally get the macro headwinds out of the way, usually the liftoff doesn't start immediately. So let's just say middle of next year, right, the summer, I would say there's a good chance that we make new all-time low. When I say all-time lows, I don't mean like all-time for Bitcoin lows. I mean that's when we make a new low for this cycle, right? For this bear market, as we are potentially calling it right now. In retrospect, we'll look back and it'll be obvious, but right now it's kind of confusing, right? I think that we potentially we hit a bottom. What I think might happen is we hit what the low is potentially going to be for this bear market in the summer, on the news of quantitative easing starting, and Jerome Powell out, new Fed chair announced. But then I think we might double bottom or come close or maybe slightly lower in October. Right? We may rally in between there, but we might double bottom in October. And that would essentially put us right where normal cycles happen, right? The only difference to this cycle that we just had, if it's actually over, is we didn't have an altcoin season, like a legitimate altcoin season. And that's what everybody was waiting for, and that's why everybody's still holding out hope. But what if we just don't get it because macro conditions just weren't right? And what if we still go through a bear market, given maybe it's not as bad, because we didn't have the insane market caps of all these random altcoins that needed to be flushed out, right? So we don't go as low as, most altcoins are usually bare minimum 90% down for majority of them. Maybe we don't go 90 to 99% down on them. We get a more, mild bear market, but it still lasts the same amount of time with a rally in between the summer and October where we potentially double bottom in both of those quarters. And then we start the new cycle and we go up from there, right? Bitcoin will lead it. But I wonder if, since the macro conditions are going to be favorable for this next cycle, we'll call it, do we get altcoins that just, start flying immediately with Bitcoin? And it's a little different than normal. Almost kind of like, I think Bitcoin led in the 2020-2021 cycle, but altcoins seem like they ran for what seemed like a year and a half, with a correction in the summer of 2021. I wonder if we're just going to see something more like that, where we're going to get like a year and a half of altcoins running. Or is crypto just different now, right? And you want to be positioned in altcoins that are actually making a difference rather than some random meme coin that just pops up out of nowhere, where you can probably still make money, but like maybe we don't see that crazy of altcoin cycles anymore. I don't know. If I were to guess, though, I would say we probably still, at least the like blue chip altcoins would still run, and I think they're going to run longer because none of them. You can argue Solana ran and touched its previous all-time high. Ethereum just touched its previous all-time high. BNB, I think, made a little bit higher of a high. But most altcoins didn't even come close to their previous all-time highs. And maybe that's a sign that those are not the altcoins you want to be in, right? Ones that have been around for multiple cycles that didn't even come close to their previous all-time high of last cycle. Like Cardano, like Avalanche, like, you name it, right? Near Protocol. You can go down the list of the top 100 altcoins, let alone anything below that. And maybe you want to be positioned in some of those altcoins that for a fact are part of what is going to run no matter what, and not taking flyers on, Blue Frog meme coin 1079 on CoinMarketCap for next cycle. Which is why this is a KASPA channel, obviously, but This is why I would not sleep on something like Solana. As centralized as it is, it seems to have kind of made its bed in the top 10 probably for quite a while. Maybe even top 5 for quite a while. I don't know. I was a Solana bull last cycle until I found KASPA this cycle. I still hold a bunch of Solana because I bought it at $8. All I'm saying is I would not sleep on those projects doing very well in the next cycle when altcoins run, because you know they have a ton of VC backing, right? And the argument is Solana goes down a lot. But they just implemented something, I can't even remember the name of it, but it's supposedly using codes from 2 different areas, and it's going to be impossible, they say, for it to freeze up and go down again. So we'll see if that plays out. But hold your KASPA. Like, for instance, if I was going into next cycle and I wanted to make sure for a fact that I made gains, and I wanted to hold altcoins, I would make sure that I had Ethereum or Solana in my portfolio. The top 2 L1s in the space right now. That's just me personally, right? And I would choose Solana over Ethereum because it's a lower market cap and you potentially get more gains out of it. That's just my opinion. And that's why I hold it as part of my portfolio. KASPA is my biggest holding, but Solana is actually my second biggest holding. And partly, I haven't bought any for a very long time. Part of that is because I saw the writing on the wall in 2022 at the bottom of the bear market, where Solana like plummeted to $8, and I bought a ton of it at $8 because it went from like $2.50 to $8, and nothing had changed. It was still gaining adoption. So those are the things you got to look for. We'll get off the Solana train because I know you guys don't want to hear about that. I'm just giving you my personal, I guess, view on what I think is potentially good to hold, right? Just in case we don't see every altcoin run next cycle, it would be very beneficial to make sure that you, at least as part of your portfolio, hold either Ethereum or Solana so that you can almost guarantee you're going to see some altcoin movement next cycle. And Solana seems to run very well when it runs. I also hold Sui. I still believe Sui is going to have a run. Same backers as Solana. Much lower market cap. And basically, those are my top 3 meme coins, my top 3 L1s and altcoins in general. Everything else is just dust at this point. Even the KRC20s, at the peak of when they launched, I held thousands of dollars in each Nacho and Gold coin, and those are down to under $100 each. Like, they plummeted in price. I don't know, even if we see a massive altcoin season, I don't know if we're even going to ever see them go back up to the prices they launched at. But, like, it's not even worth selling at this point. I'm just holding on to them and seeing what happens. But I almost don't even consider them as part of my portfolio anymore because it's almost just like pocket change now. Whereas there used to be a decent amount of money on their USD pairs anyway. So that's just kind of my thoughts on what's potentially coming for us. I would recommend, just in case we don't see crazy altcoin season next year and only like the top guys run, some ETH or some Solana. Obviously hold KASPA, maybe some Sui if you want to go down the risk curve a little bit. And then a small percentage of your portfolio maybe in some speculative stuff. Some meme coins. I would say there's a good chance meme coins have a season again next time around. But it's not guaranteed. You wonder when the institutions come in now, are we just going to see more stability? Are we going to see more boring price action? And are we only going to see the altcoins that the institutions want to be in run? Right? It's just something to think about, I guess. But there's also a chance we have a 2020, 2021 run where every altcoin runs again. I'm just trying to position myself where I know for a fact Solana is going to run. I'm pretty damn positive that KASPA is going to run. I'm pretty damn positive Sui is going to run. And I know Bitcoin's going to run, right? Usually runs first. You don't get as many gains with it, but it will run. You will make money if you buy at the right time. So that's just my 2 cents on what I'm holding. And then I'll dabble in a few speculative stuff here and there. But I'll bet you, so if I'm right, and this is a so-called bear market, okay, whether it be shorter, whether it be milder, doesn't matter. The projects that are going to run the best next cycle that don't have any baggage are projects that aren't even born yet. So I wouldn't even worry about anything outside of, at least for me, I'm not worrying about anything right now outside of KASPA and Sui are the only two projects I'm DCAing into. Solana, I'm just holding my bag. I'm staking it, so I'm actually technically DCAing into it because they're paying me 6%. And then Bitcoin, I'm just holding pat with right now. Everything else, it's going to be next cycle, right? Once we move into the summer of this year, maybe some prospects of, and maybe even some of those are on the KASPA ecosystem. We'll have to look into that as well. But those are the projects that are going to be the new shiny toys for this next cycle. So I'd be very careful putting too much money into too many projects that have been around the block, especially for multiple cycles. But even this last cycle, this might be a caveat, though, since a lot of altcoins didn't run last cycle. Maybe the new coins from last cycle still run in the next cycle. I don't know. KASPA would be one of those. So that's just my 2 cents. I hope... I know nobody asked me for my 2 cents, but I thought maybe it would help somebody. Now let's move on to the comment section. Do you think 10 cents is possible in Q1? The overall market could pop by Q2. As QE effect sets in, be good to see CAS get into position for listing. I guarantee you we're going to have a counter trend rally between now and the summer of next year. I think it would probably come in the next month or so. Bitcoin will probably go back up to... it could go back up to like 100K. Some altcoins might actually breach their previous all-time highs. And then everybody's going to say, I told you so, this is altcoin season. But my gut feeling is that it's a counter-trend rally and we're going to come back down again. We're not going to blast into massive all-time highs with these altcoins because the macro backdrop is just not set up for it yet. The earliest the macro backdrop is going to be set up for an altcoin season is the end of next year. The earliest. And I would argue it's going to go out later than that at this point because usually when you get all of these rate cuts, when you get QE starting, when you get all of these changes, right? Liquidity starting to flow into the market, it doesn't immediately capture asset prices, right? It takes a little bit of time for this liquidity to start filling in the cracks of the economy, right? And the world economy before we really see things starting to move and people feel comfortable putting their money back into risk assets again, right? And so I think the earliest that we're going to see a true altcoin season is the end of next year. And I would argue it's probably going to be later than that because you need time for these things to, root themselves out of this tightening phase that we've been in for 3 or 4 years now. It's the longest tightening phase I think we've ever had, which gives me hope that this next bull market's going to be fun. Right? It can't. I don't want to jinx anything and say it can't be as bad as this last bull market. Let's say the top was in October. Altcoins never really ran. That's an awful bull market in the crypto world, right? Based on what we've seen in the past. Awful. So I can't imagine the next one is going to be that bad. Especially when all of the macro headwinds are going to be out of our way. And typically in those environments is when we get these massive risk assets going absolutely crazy. And so I was hoping, leading up to this, that there would be enough headwinds out of the way so that we could top and altcoins could run in 2025. Clearly that did not happen. Bitcoin did fine. Bitcoin like 8 or 10x'd from the bottom. You can't ask anything more of that. But Bitcoin is the one that everybody trusts. And so that's where the money went. In order for altcoins to run, we need less restrictive monetary policy, and that's what we're getting middle of next year. Okay? And so it won't happen immediately, but it will happen sometime after that. And to answer your question, since I just rambled for 10 minutes, we could see KASPA back up at 10 cents in Q1 because there is going to be a counter trend rally, in my opinion. And if Bitcoin goes back to 100K, roughly, then I think altcoins will rally. They're not going to rally in a sense of what we consider altcoin season. But I could see KASPA potentially going back up that high. It could even go higher, but just to come back down again going into the summer of next year. When we do get this counter trend rally that I think is coming, I might actually take some profits. Because my thesis is, at this point, we're not going to have an alt season until next cycle. Which sucks, because I myself, and including a lot of you guys, have been waiting 4 years for this. And we're just getting stomped on. But what are you going to do, right? You have to... you just have to wait it out. There's nothing else you can do. The chance will come for those who are patient enough. I thought I was going to be looking for a new house this year. Next year. Because we need a bigger house than we have right now. We currently have way too much shit in our house. And we need more room. And I was going to use some of my KASPA profits and some other altcoin profits to buy a house with a little more land. And that is not happening. Punch in the gut. Which is also a good rule of thumb. Never expect anything on a certain time frame, because the curveball will be thrown. Okay. We need Binance. I hate Binance, but those who say F Binance, we don't need them, are in delusion. I'm still of the thought process that Binance will list eventually. Wait for all this to die down. All those accounts by Binance, BYE, Nance, they'll stop. People will just forget about it at some point, and Binance is already set up for the infrastructure if they wanted to list. I think down the road, obviously I thought it was going to happen sooner, but their listing fee was absolutely ridiculous. I think eventually they'll come around. I don't know when that's going to be. Bitcoin has been unprofitable for mining for the majority of its entire life. That's why it works, because miners do not sell right away. They hang on until prices go up, creating supply imbalance. Yeah, and what happens is, well, they mine at a loss because they know eventually the amount of Bitcoin that they're mining will go up substantially, right? And then they'll take profits. But they also have to be able to pay their electrical bills in the meantime. And that's where the issue comes in sometimes. But yeah, Bitcoin miners are usually only profitable for a very short period of time in a bull market. Yeah, we're not going to address that again. Mining fees will need to increase, in my opinion. It's possible. I don't, and you know what? I'll bet you at some point if you know, if there becomes a time where an immediate quick fix would be just to raise up the fees a little bit to keep the system and the infrastructure and the miners on board, I think the community would rally around that, because the fees are so low right now. If you just raised it a little bit, then I think everybody using the network might agree at that time that a little bit extra in fees to keep the system up and running, right, would be beneficial for everybody. There might be a time where that does come about, and there's a vote or whatever it might be. Or maybe it doesn't matter because there's enough usage at a certain point in time too. But that might be a bridge that we, have to face at some point in time. It's solving all the problems in crypto. Of course, it's going to be the biggest one. Yeah, I mean, it could literally solve. KASPA can solve every problem that crypto has. It's just a matter of getting the word out to people and understand that, getting the word out so that people understand that. Because still right now, not a lot of people understand or even know about it for that matter. KASPA Whale here. Glad to see your deep dive and knowledge. I appreciate it. Crypto Cash. You're a whale, huh? Congratulations. That's a hell of a lot of KASPA. And as soon as we finally get that like next legitimate move from KASPA breaking into new all-time highs, you're going to be sitting very pretty. I think 80K was the bottom. Liquidity is freezing up. It's up from here in a huge move. It's possible. I'm not discounting that could happen. I just think I think 80K was probably the bottom until we get this counter move, or roughly the bottom. But I think we're going to go a little bit lower. The 60 or 70K range, I think, is going to be roughly the bottom, like bottom for this potential bear market. I say potential still because I'm not 100% sure. Everything's confusing right now because it's not acting like normal cycles, which we should have known was coming at some point because otherwise it's too easy. Too easy to make money for us scumbag normies, right? The institutions will not have it. I wish I had some dry powder. Thinking of selling some gold for more exposure. I sold, so you could. You could, like, if you have a reoccurring regular income too, you could just DCA, and then you'll buy some at a little higher, but you'll also come close to the bottom on some buys, that type of stuff. I sold some other altcoins, so I have a little bit of dry powder. I told you guys earlier in this video the ones that I'm still holding, but some of the mid-range stuff that I had, I sold because I don't see an altcoin season anytime soon, and I don't want to hold that crap. And so I have a little bit, and that's all set for limit orders if we get some sort of spike down. One of my limit orders too is set around the half-cent mark, and if that hits, then that'll be sweet. Because remember that crash on October 10th, nobody thought KASPA was ever going back down to 1 cent, and it dipped below 1 cent on that flash crash. So I could see a scenario where a half a cent is in play, even if it's a flash crash. I don't know what the bottom is going to be for KASPA. This bear market. I'm going to put it in quotations until we're sure. So should be okay for taxes because it's all in the United States. Yeah, I think CoinMarketCap actually on their site, I can't remember where it was, but they have made in, I think it was like made in USA tokens. And KASPA was added to that list because all of the servers are in, or I wouldn't say all of them, but most of them are in Los Angeles, according to Wolfie. I don't really want to find this right now, but there was a... Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly where it was. But there was a made in USA or USA branded cryptocurrencies, and KASPA was added to that list. I think it was last year sometime. So yeah, if for some reason we don't have to pay taxes, I don't know if that's even through Congress yet as far as paying taxes on USA based cryptocurrencies. You shouldn't have to pay taxes on KASPA if you're in the U.S. Also, you're DCAing KASPA. So am I. Everybody should be at this point if you have some sort of disposable income that doesn't hinder you from living your day-to-day life. You should be DCAing into KASPA. I think it was a week and a half ago where I started my weekly DCAs again. I should have been doing it all along, but I thought we were just about to hit a blow off top sector of the cycle, and clearly that didn't happen. I'm still okay with my bag, but I figure if we have more time, why not add to it? There's no harm in that. It's just going to be... I'll just be more rich when KASPA finally runs. And so will you guys. Q2 new Fed chair, probably a dove. Yes, he will be a dove. Raul Paul, Michael Howell, both agreeing that 4.5-year cycle puts us at May, June for big pump. Progress on VProgs, blah, blah. Yeah, Dag Night by then. We'll be laughing by summer. You could be right. I'm not going to sit up here and say I know everything. I just think that the liquidity... things don't happen immediately. And Raul Paul... God, I'm butchering everything today. Raul Paul is... I like the guy. And he's usually right about things, but he's never right on the right timeline, it seems like. And so I would push back on his timeline, per se. But that's why I'm not completely selling out of all my altcoins, because there is a chance that we see something crazy before I think it's going to happen. And if we do, I want to be positioned. I don't want to be completely sold out of everything except for stable coins and Bitcoin. So my only pushback on this is just Q2, yeah, we get a new chair. It'll be dovish. But the liquidity, it takes a little while to fill in the cracks of what we've been dealing with over the past 4 years. And so usually when QT ends and QE starts, rate cuts start plummeting. It takes a little bit of time before we get to a point where risk on assets just start going absolutely crazy, because people have a period of time where they're still unsure, and they need to get to a point where they feel comfortable spending money again, right? And that doesn't happen immediately because you've just been traumatized for 4 years. And so that's why I think that although what you say is going to happen eventually, I don't know that it's going to be that early. But again, I'm not 100% sure either. That's why I kept my top altcoins intact, just in case. Is Solana facing legal issues? I don't think so. It's going to get an ETF. That it and XRP are the next two for ETFs. There's still Yeah, I know. I know some of you guys don't like Solana. I try not to talk about it that much because I really don't know much about it anymore, except for that it's adopted, and there's some big backers to it. And let's be honest, it has performed very well. You can't deny that. And I think, like before, it was always you wanted to hold, Bitcoin and probably some Ethereum because it's the most trusted altcoin, right? I would argue that Solana is, with a lower market cap, is more adopted and maybe even more trusted at this point. I know it goes down and stuff, but if you're gonna hold Ethereum, you might as well just hold Solana, in my opinion, because the potential for outsized gains because the market cap's smaller. You don't have to hold any of them. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm not trying to pressure anybody into holding anything. If you don't like Solana, don't hold it. Yeah, not financial advice. That's right. I probably don't say that enough. Maybe I should put a disclosure somewhere so I don't get shut down. Did you guys see? I don't know if any of you guys still watch. Well, I don't think you can still watch or even like Crypto Galaxy. But I see him on X now, and his account got deleted, and they're not telling him why, apparently. And he's like freaking out about it. I still have faith in Nacho. I would say if I had faith in any KRC20 right now, Nacho would be the top. I'm not selling it, or my bag anyway. It's just crazy that it went from like thousands of dollars down to less than $100 in a matter of a year and a half. I don't know that we can get those gains back, personally. But, it's $100. I mean, maybe to some people that's a lot of money. But like that's not enough money for me to even do anything with it. So I'm just going to hold on to it and see what happens with it. And they do have a good team. I will admit I like their team. And they're active. So if nothing else, they've got that going for them. Down again this week. Not is this infamous or is this not infamous? Did you change your name? If you did, that's actually kind of funny. We moon yet? No, we're not mooning yet. We will have a counter trend rally, I think, in the next few weeks to a month. Probably early January, maybe, where Bitcoin might actually test the 100K range again. If you want to consider that mooning, based on what we've seen in the last 4 years, that might be considered mooning. For those of you who have not been around for a bull market, like a legit altcoin season yet, I promise you that's not going to be mooning. But at least it will feel good. All the KRC20s are pure trash. It's possible. It is possible. We'll see how they play out. Like I said, right now I'm holding on to the two I have because the amount of money in US dollars is not worth enough for me to do anything with it. So they're going to sit there and we're going to hope that they do something at some point. Riley, yes, I am actively buying KASPA again as of about a week and a half ago. I'm using Kraken, by the way, because I want to support them for listing KASPA. And I just have a weekly buy set up. Buying that and Sui right now are the two coins I'm buying. And I've thought about actually adding a Bitcoin buy. The problem is it's hard for me to buy Bitcoin, even though I know it's going to run first, because the amount of money I'm putting into it on a weekly basis just doesn't move the needle, it seems like. But there's a chance. I'll let you guys know if I do start a weekly Bitcoin buy as well. It doesn't hurt. to do. It's not sexy at all. And I think next cycle I think altcoins are going to run. I think they're going to run more than people think they're going to run because of the shittiness that we have seen this cycle. No, I did not get in the IGRA pre-sale, unfortunately. Anybody who did is probably going to do well. Just hold on to it until we get the next pump. Oh, yeah, I think not infamous is infamous. Now he's showing his true colors. Yeah, Shay, you and a lot of other people, and including myself, I'm like partially retired right now. I still own a plumbing business, and I only go out part-time and work. I don't have any employees or anything. It's just me. And I work when I want to work. But I don't need to work full-time in order to support anything in my life. But I was hoping to get to a point this year where I could, basically not have to do any of these jobs that I don't want to do, like crawling underneath of houses and all the dirty stuff where I just say, nope, call the next guy. But right now, I don't have 100% of that luxury yet. So I'm in the same boat as you. Maybe we should have seen it coming because, this is the first cycle where I've seen everybody just saying, well, wait till the end of 2025. Wait till the end of 2025. 4-year cycle. And we should have seen the writing on the wall that these institutions and market makers were going to be like, nope. Too many people know and trust in what's happened. And you think about it, there's only like 2 or 3 data points, which, in real world terms is pretty ridiculous that we're basing something off of 2 or 3 data points. But that's all we had to go off of. And so it is what it is. Way too many new tokens appeared. It's like the gold rush. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem, which is why I recommend people moving into, if this cycle's over, into the next cycle, is to make sure you hold some projects that you know for sure are going to run. Ethereum, Solana, for a fact Bitcoin's going to run. Those are the only 3 that I can think of that I could say with 100% certainty are probably going to run. Which is why I have I have 2 of those 3, Bitcoin and Solana, in my portfolio. Ethereum's kind of boring to me. At least Solana has like things going on, and it's kind of fun, per se. And then speculate with a small percentage, because you can get 100 to 500 X's on certain things. It's just a matter of, are we going to see every project run again, or are we just going to see specific ones because there's too many projects and there's not enough money to go around? Infamous, just think of me sipping coconuts on the beach. Funny thing is, I think of you every morning when I wake up, wishing I could be with you on the beach sipping coconuts. I'm not lucky enough. It's funny you say that. Yeah, it is just liquidity cycles. But each liquidity cycle has roughly been 4 years. That's the thing. If you go back and look at the stock market since, for decades, it's a roughly 4-year cycle. Bitcoin just fell into that 4-year liquidity cycle. And people who didn't understand that just thought it was the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, the halving, all that kind of stuff, which may have had something to do with it, but very little in my opinion. Although you could argue Bitcoin put in new all-time highs. If this was the top of the cycle in October, it technically followed its typical 4-year cycle, right? Altcoins just didn't follow. So Bitcoin technically topped in Q4 of the post-halving year again. If we move out into next year, right, and we don't get a new all-time high. So Bitcoin technically did follow its typical 4-year cycle. But in order for altcoins to run, you need liquidity. And you need monetary policy to be, more favorable. Altcoins cannot run in, a tightening period like we've been in. Bitcoin just proved that it can still run. Because Bitcoin 125K top is roughly what I thought. I thought between 125 and 150 was going to be its top anyways. I just thought we'd have an altcoin season on top of that. So Bitcoin did what I thought it was going to do anyways, and technically topped out at the same point that you think it might top out at, right? And I would say if we were in an easing period right now, and it had started last year, then we probably would have seen another push higher in, potentially December, where altcoins would have followed as well. But the liquidity's just not there. KASPA's hash rate is dumping, and so is Bitcoin's. Go take a look at Bitcoin's hash rate. There's people alarming on X about it dropping. That's what it does in bear markets. The hash rate always drops because people aren't making enough money to pay their electricity bills to keep them on. Okay. I think I'm going to take off, guys. It's been over an hour, and Infamous is just spanning the chat at this point. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in, coming back to hang out. Make sure you pay your bar tabs before you leave. Like the video. Hit the subscribe button. And make sure you continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late. Because at some point, it's going to be too late.